Bernie Sanders and Michael Moore chastised corporate media for their failure to cover poverty in America. Seriously, let's watch.
How often have you guys seen on television any discussion of poverty in America? You ever see it? No. Virtually not at all. 40 million people struggling. And what I would say to our friends in the corporate media, start paying attention to the reality of how many people in our country are struggling economically every single day. Let's talk about that issue.
Mike? I was just in West Virginia. You were in West Virginia recently. They had an amazing victory, the teacher strike in West Virginia. And this is a union. This union brought down the state apparatus at 75% women in this union. And they rose up, and Bernie, I didn't see hardly anything in the corporate media about this on any of the networks. Even some of the networks that we watch were, Russia, turn the channel, Russia. And I'm not saying it's not important.
You forgot about Stormy Daniels.
Okay. Stormy Daniels and Don Jr. and whoever else, all the shiny keys to distract us. That's what goes on in the media. All the other things that they talk about, and we should be seeing this. This we should see. We should know about the West Virginia teacher strike and the victory. What inspiration that would be around the country if you saw people in West Virginia do this. They haven't had a strike like this in forever, and they don't show this, Bernie, because what would happen if they did? What would happen?
In a so-called conservative red state, teachers stood up and fought back and won.
Yeah, they're totally right. We covered a story recently, and by the way, Bernie's sitting next to somebody there who's from the UN, who was in Alabama, and they were researching the extreme poverty in Alabama, and they discovered that they don't have functioning sewage systems in many places in Alabama. There's been a return of hookworm, which is a disease that usually impacts the third world and developing countries. So we found extreme poverty in Alabama, and the UN specialist said this is something that's not seen in the developed world. So go ahead, take a look at how much coverage there was about that on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or the Nightly News. Virtually none. And that's their point. Their point is they're not, the media is not covering anything serious. To be fair, that's not what they're saying. That's what I'm saying. I go a little further than they do. It's Stormy Daniels, and she's been getting a lot more coverage lately. And by the way, look back to the Democrats under Bill Clinton and look at what their arguments were. Their arguments were basically, this is what we're going to talk about? This is lowbrow to be discussing when we're talking about the highest office, arguably in the world. We're concerned about what was going on with somebody's penis. Why are we not talking about the issues that matter? Why are we not talking about the substance? And the Republicans would harp away on the sexual shit, and you know what happened? It didn't work. Bill Clinton's numbers went up when they were talking about Monica Lewinsky. Why? Because people were like, okay, yeah, whatever, Bill Clinton might be an asshole for cheating on his wife and all that stuff, but what the fuck does that have to do with my Social Security? What the fuck does that have to do with the economy or war? That was the reaction. That's why his numbers went up when they talked about Monica Lewinsky. Now, they don't realize they're doing the same fucking thing with Trump right now. Now, Trump's ratings, to be fair, are very low. But if all you fucking keep talking about is Stormy Daniels, and Russia, and then the other thing they were talking about how dare President Trump call Putin to congratulate him on his bullshit election victory, because it was a stolen election. And they melt down like, this is the first time that a Republican has backed dictators. Usually Republicans and Democrats all agree dictators were bad under previous administrations. What? Not only is that not true, Obama literally called Putin in 2012 after he won a bullshit re-election then as well. So just stop. You're just using the most hacky arguments ever. And what Bernie's saying and what Michael Moore is saying is, look at the shit we could be talking about. 40 million people are struggling. Half of workers in America make $30,000 a year or less. Michael Moore brought up earlier in the same event that about 50% of Americans don't have $400 for an emergency saved up. 76% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. The richest 3 people in America have more wealth than the bottom 50% of Americans. These are the real issues. These are the things we could be talking about. How our country is now functioning like an oligarchy and not a democracy. But they're not going to talk about the extreme poverty in Alabama and the hookworm, half of workers in America making $30,000 a year or less. They're not going to talk about the war on the middle class and the poor and the 400,000 homeless people and the about 40,000 homeless veterans. They're not going to talk about any of that. It's corporate media. It's establishment media. Their worldview reflects the worldview of their fellow elitists in the cocktail circle. So that's why it's, stick to the nonsense issues like Stormy Daniels. And then when Democrats get elected, hey, wonderful, because they didn't promise you anything now, did they? So they can keep the status quo going and then turn around and go, I don't know what you expected me to do. You expect me to actually fucking help you? You expect me to do Medicare for all and free college and a living wage and pro-union legislation and ending the wars and a new Deal? I wasn't going to do that. Why would I do that? You heard me when I was fucking talking about Stormy Daniels all day long. So what did you expect me to get in here and like be actually populist left and make America a social democracy? No. So that's why what Michael Moore is doing here, and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, that's why this inequality town hall is so important. The Medicare for all town hall Bernie did is so important because it's educating everybody on what's actually going on in the country, and this is what people are yearning for. This is why shows like mine are popular, is because we want to talk about the things that matter, and corporate media, like they said, is trying to go, shiny fucking object, look at that instead.